call to order the school board meeting for Tuesday, August the 5th. We'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Pickens and the invocation by Ms. Gilliard. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus, we have assembled here today to conduct the business and to take care of the affairs, God, of this district. God, we pray, as always, for your divine leadership and your guidance. God, we thank you that we live and serve in a country, God, where we're free to worship and to honor you. Father, now in the name of Jesus, we ask that you will continue to bless and keep us, keep our hearts and minds focused, God, on the task at hand. But it's not about us. It's about our children, our district, and our employees. And now, as I share graceformoms.com, a prayer for our students. Dear God, thank you for the gift of education in every form. As our children prepare to start a new year, may confidence be their foundation, may grace be their guide, and may hope be their compass towards a bright future. I pray they would have eyes to see the needs of those around them and a heart to love as well. May they face each day with positivity, knowing that no matter what comes their way, they do not have to face it alone. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Gilliard. Okay, board, we will move to our presentations and begin with B1, retiree recognitions. Ms. Whitehurst.
Good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to get to do this, and as we're kicking off a new school year, we're going to get to honor three who decided not to kick off a new school year. They're kicking off another part of life. So we want to start out by recognizing Miss Paula Simmons, teacher, most recently at Browning Pierce, 27 years with Putnam County Schools.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Next, we have Miss Starla Lawson, who has been working with us in school food service, most recently at Jenkins Elementary, has served Putnam County School District for 12 years. And then our last one today is Mr. Sherman Williams, who is retiring from Melrose Elementary as the head custodian, and I believe that he has been at Melrose the entire time. Nope. No? You started at Interlaken? Okay. 35 at Melrose. He's been with the district. I'm just going to go ahead and say 38 years. It's close enough. We're just going to go ahead and say 38 years. So Mr. Sherman Williams, congratulations.
Wow.
Take off some time.
He's
and
in,
come back.
yeah. No, do not come back. Be successful at retirement.
Wow.
All right, we will move to item B2, CTE retiree recognitions. Ms. Huff, you're recognized.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Board. So back in the spring, these two ladies were recognized by Ms. Whitehurst and as retiring for this year. And so we would like to recognize them as retiring as career and technical education teachers. So our first one is Patricia Sauls. And it says, "Thank you for 20 years of hard work and dedication, career and technical education, Putnam County School District health science teacher."
All right. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
Get everybody in? There we go.
And our other one is Suzanne Seitz, which I don't think I see her, but she is retiring with 34 years of career and technical education as a business teacher at Palaca High, and she was also at Interlochen High.
All right. Awesome. Awesome.
Ms. Huff, we're more than happy to recognize her if she can come to a future board meeting.
Okay, yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, now we move to item B3, our Board Oversight Committee report, and the chairman, Jared Dollar, is here to make the report, and Mr. Dollar, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. It's good to see you and good luck on a start next week. My wife's already back, so she's not real happy, but that's all right. That's what she signed up for. So I'm here to give you your annual report for the Bond Oversight Committee. I did send Chairman Leary a copy. He has the full report, which I'll go over. I just wanted to recap what our purpose is, a little bit about what we've done the last year or so, and then a couple of items of attention. We started in 2023, and if you remember, we were there to just basically watch the money that's coming in from the bond issue, see this being spent properly in the schools. I do want to point out again that we see everything after it happens. We don't see anything beforehand necessarily. We don't review items before the money's spent. Of course, we wanted to build 6 new schools. We know that's not going to happen. We're going to have 2 brand new schools and revitalization of a few more, and all in process. The good news is the Palaca Intermediate and Crescent City schools will be open next school year for sure. And I think the one across the street from my house, Palaca Intermediate, it could be open any day, it looks like, but can't do it in the middle of the school year. I do want to point out we'd had some improvements to Horseman Club Road in the last month, which was a big deal for the neighborhood and that cut-through road between 19 and 20. So that's good news. At each of our meetings, we are presented with timelines and project updates. Both of the current new schools had a contingency plan or contingency fund built in. At our last meeting, both still had plenty of money. Palaca A or Palaca Intermediate was 80% complete, still had $1 million in contingency, and the school in Crescent City was 56% complete and still had $950,000 in contingency. And the contractor said that any big items that would have come up have already been addressed. So I think we're in good shape there. And it's been a while, but November of 24, our meeting, we actually did get to go tour Palaca Intermediate site. I haven't been in a brand new school in a number of years, and it was exciting to see what it's going to be. It's humongous, so I'm looking forward to seeing the kids in there. I talked about the traffic situation a little bit on Horseman Club. Obviously, when they start with Kelly Smith, redoing that, it's always, well, y'all have talked about it, but it's always been an issue coming off 20. So hopefully we can get some things done to alleviate the traffic there. Our latest meeting was in June, and there were 2 items that I just wanted to bring to your attention. One, it kind of caught me off guard for sure, but we were asked whether our committee as it stands now should be looking at the next set of projects. The school district has it broken into 3 phases. The first phase is the 2 new schools. Next phase will be Kelly Smith and Melrose, and then the third phase. And my interpretation of what we're doing is we're to be a committee that oversees any and all money that comes from these projects until we're not a committee anymore. We were asked, should we have a new committee? Should we not be looking at the next set of projects? And I said, we're going to look at everything and all the money that's spent until you tell us not to. We're in 3-year terms. Those will end in January coming up. So it's up to you as a school board to either reappoint us, dismiss us, or appoint a whole new committee if you wish. So that's one issue that came up. The next, and we've talked about this several times, and I think y'all have talked about it, is whether the school district should hire an actual construction manager at the district level. I know that we have architects, we have people that are working for the entities building these schools. But if you recall, one of my issues I brought up last time was zoning and permitting. Those were dropped big time at Crescent City and Palatka A, and I think led to Palatka A not being able to open this school year as expected. I asked that question early on and was told everything was handled, and it wasn't. I think if we had somebody at the school district that was watching over every facet of this, I personally think it's going to get more complicated when you start rebuilding schools and not building from the ground up. Different things that you're going to have to watch, from fire suppression to safety. It's easier when you're coming out of the ground, but I think with these older schools, it's going to get more difficult. So I ask that you consider that. And then the last item, if you didn't already know, your bank account is full of money at the moment for these projects. We did issue the second round of funds in June. Just so the public knows, the total that came in was $103,134,424. The reason we didn't do it early, but at some point those second set of projects have to start, and we weren't comfortable waiting because to get those off the ground, we need money in the bank. We all need money in the bank. And as we know, the 2 schools are getting close to done, but they are going to go through the money, the first $100 million, pretty quickly. So we decided that we should go ahead and have the second one issued. That's done. The money's in the bank, and I think it was removed from the agenda today, but I know that the next steps are in process for the other Kelly Smith and Melrose. So that's my report, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Board, any questions or comments?
I'd like to thank Jared and the Oversight Committee for all you've done. It's tough. It's aggravating sometimes, and I've been to some of the meetings and watched, but I mean, what you're doing is going to last the children of Putnam County for 50 to 75 years. So
We definitely get into some topics that are beyond probably our scope, but that's
Right.
because everybody's passionate about it. So
Jared inspects it on his golf cart.
no, four-wheeler. I'm a four-wheeler over there.
four-wheeler.
Yeah.
And would you repeat the title that you suggested that the board look into hiring on the district level?
We've
What
just,
was that title
we've just,
again?
construction manager, I don't know what the title, but just a couple of things that fell through the cracks that I think if it was a school district employee that it was their job to watch these things through, I don't think that would have happened. And it's nothing against the folks that are at the district level,
Yes.
but they're spread so thin already. I think it'd be worth looking at.
Yes, Ms.
On the terms, I know I was at that meeting. Who would it be? Who decides? I mean, it's written in there 3 years. So do we contact the different people we appointed and see?
Thomas, do you want to address that? I know you brought it up in the meeting, or do you want Jared to address it?
Well, I mean, I think we did a good enough job of addressing it. It's just a simple question, when it was a question about the scope of the DOC. And we're happy to go any direction, So I think it was probably, or would probably best be determined by our attorney or the board's attorney to interpret what the rules are. But it was more or less a question from staff.
Well, is there anyone that's saying, hey, I'd rather not be on it this year? I mean, when the
Not that-
term is up?
I-
Oh, okay.
And in our bylaws, we can be extended one term. I don't think there's anyone that said they don't want to do it.
Okay.
We have had a couple of, maybe just one or two replacements during the cycle. But it's certainly, I mean, we have some time, but probably a good idea if you wanted to contact the people you did appoint, ask them if they want to continue, and then we can y'all can do a resolution and continue it, or if they want to be replaced, each person had 2 appointees, so you could certainly do that.
Ms. Wagon?
I just wanted to, because going back to what you had mentioned about it's your purpose to make sure things are spent right with the bond money, but you always, and we had that conversation during a board meeting one time, that it really, you're more of, I think it was said you were more of a liaison between the board and the community with regard to the spending that's
Right.
already occurred by the time you see it. If you were to start looking at the next phase now, like you were suggesting, could that possibly change in such a way that maybe you could ask the questions ahead of time to where it would be more helpful, before the decisions are set in stone?
I think we could. One of the ways we do that is when we know, for example, y'all are going to have a contract to review or GMP or whatever the term is for the next project. If we scheduled our meeting a few weeks ahead of time to see that, my question to whoever is whether we're allowed to see it too early. Like, I don't know if it's a bidding process when it'll be public for us to look at it. Certainly we could. All of y'all probably know Dr. Hunter that's on our committee, and he goes over every I and every T on everything, and it's tremendous. So he's doing a great job, and he does question stuff afterwards too. But if we saw it beforehand, I think it would be good. There's just been a couple of times where we had some input that maybe would have changed the decision.
And do y'all do any, other than your meetings being available, do y'all do any outreach to the community at all besides the meetings being public?
No, I know the video and the minutes are all posted on the revitalization site, but everything has to be in the open, so we can't really. We could have a party if that's what you're suggesting. As long as we advertise it, I guess.
That's all I had, thank you.
And so, I was also, I'm sorry, did you?
No, sir, I'm
Okay,
done.
okay. At the last Bond Oversight Committee meeting, and what has struck me from day one is that Dr. Hunter, who, whether y'all know it or not, he's a PhD in both civil engineering and nuclear engineering, and headed up with the main company that built and designed all our nuclear facilities, our missile facilities. So, I mean, he's overseen not just millions, but billion-dollar projects. And he's been adamant, and, I've talked to him specifically about, having a building construction manager that had, a degree and experience in building construction, and that, when you're talking $300 million in construction, that, to not have a professional like that, I think is, and I've stated it, several times at the board, that we're really missing the mark. And so I'm not sure whether, what the board, as far as, talking about that, I think it's something we should discuss before we move forward with these next 2 projects and then the projects after that. But I just think it's important. I understand that there's that, as you said, that there are the current employees all with the district have a multitude of responsibilities, and I don't think it's really fair to put them in that position. So, and I do believe it could be paid for out of the bond. And being familiar with those construction managers, they basically go from project to project. So it's not somebody you're going to have a long-term tenure with. You'd have a contract with them for a year and a half or 2 years, or maybe even 3 years, depending on the construction schedule, and then go from there. So at any rate, that's my 2 cents. All right, any other questions or comments by the board?
We have in past years had general contractors employed by the board to do projects, but normally when you go into like every other district in the state of Florida, when you go into a bond issue or oversight, you wind up with contract managers, and so that, I mean, it's whatever the board decides.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dollar, thank you
Yes,
so much
sir.
for coming, and we will also be discussing resolution to either reappoint, and all the board members will contact their appointees, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jared.
All right, we will now move to public comment. Any public comment cards? Okay. All right, so no public comments, so we will now move to our public hearing on the consent agenda. And Ms. Wagner, I will start with you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we gonna do the naming thing within the?
Oh, yeah, that's coming up. Yeah,
Oh,
I got
coming
it.
up.
Mhm. Okay.
No, I did not have anything to pull.
All right, Ms. Gilliard.
Mine is L2, but I don't think it's under the regular consent agenda.
L2.
L2.
No, that's in.
Yeah, that's, so we're gonna discuss that, so,
Okay.
so I don't have to.
All right,
yeah.
Mr. Buckles.
I'm fine.
Ms. Pickens.
I talked to Miss France today. I'm good.
Okay, and I would like to pull F3 and G1, which will be the committee.
Read.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for the balance of the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minus, help me here, Phil, E3,
F3.
excuse me, F3, and what else?
G1.
G1,
And G1.
correct.
I'll second that.
All right. And so I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, I'm gonna go to G1 first, since all these gentlemen here that have to get back and make, the big money they make, that they get an opportunity. But the naming committee, which all of us recommend appointments to, that is here. And I will call whoever the spokesperson is, or if all y'all want to speak. All
We
right,
have
John
a
Raymond, you are recognized to come up and tell us about this and the process and what we will obviously be approving.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Well, on behalf of our committee and headed by Coach Jim McCool, Jim called us all and asked us to get on board, and we all did so, and I think you know everyone.
Right.
Charles Overturf, Sweet Owens, of course, Coach McCool, Ben Bates, who also was a coach for many of us
Ben
here.
who?
Ben Bates.
I got you, okay.
And Ricky Surrency, I don't think I see him here. Jerome Wilkinson was also on the committee as well, so I don't see him here today. But also thank you to Thomas Bowen and Alice Keith for directing us and leading us through the protocol that's involved in this endeavor. I want to thank them, and also want to thank the board for allowing us to be here today, hoping that you will support and approve our request in naming the press box at Bennett Cooper Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium after Ron Dennis. I think all of you probably know Ron. If you don't know Ron, you probably heard of Ron. He's a Palaca boy. He grew up here in the 50s and 60s. He was an excellent baseball player and basketball player. He was educated here, went to school here, went to college, and came back home. Came back home like many of us did, wanted to start a career and start a family. And Ron became a teacher and a coach, an athletic director, longtime administrator, and then he became the voice of Panther football. And he did that for over 38 years. We tried to calculate it the best that we could, but it's probably between 400 and 500 games that he announced on radio. And that was home games, away games, playoff games. And radio is a whole different animal from being on the PA system and being when you're live streaming, because you become the voice and then the vision for people who couldn't attend the games, and they're at home or in their cars listening to the games. And Ron was excellent at it. Yeah. If you know Ron, he's a talker. And he was very animated in his broadcast. He was very accurate, statistically accurate in the broadcast, very informative, and very creative. He did an excellent job for all those years. And when I say more than 38 years, Charlie brought it to our attention, and he's right. He did some baseball games also for Panther baseball on radio. So, but he's just done a wonderful job all these years. And most importantly, though, Ron he's a family man. His wife of many years, Kay, and his children, Shannon and Katie. He's also devoted to his faith, and he's devoted to Putnam County, in particular Palatka. And he has been involved in so many organizations, charitable organizations, and helped raise so many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I tried to figure out how many volunteer hours he's actually had over the years. It's immeasurable. I couldn't even calculate it. He's still doing it. So it is with our hopes that you will support us on this endeavor and that you will name the press box at Bennett Cooper Field at Veterans Memorial Stadium after Ron Dennis. We all think he's so deserving of this. And he is, yes.
I just wanted to ask a
Recognize
question.
Mr. Buckles.
This is the same Ron Dennis that grew up on President Street, a block away from where I lived.
It
that
is.
correct?
It is.
He's the same one that was double alt in basketball as his number.
It is.
And baseball, and the same one that hit a leadoff triple in one of the state championship games. I think I know who you're talking about. And he worked for the school district for many years. And the foundation that we had, Putnam County didn't have a foundation to provide student awards. And Ron went to Duval County and mimicked a foundation put together that like they had in Duval, and for decades, and it's still, I guess now we've still got the Education Foundation, but it was brought back because a former superintendent let it lapse into a school and then it went under, but now it's back. But Ron Dennis was the ramrod for that Education Foundation, which provided hundreds of thousands of dollars of awards to kids, if not millions. You'd have to go back in all the years, but I think I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, Ron is a very special person. Like I said, if you don't know him, and you've probably heard of him, very special
I
person.
can make him mad as anybody. Me and Jim McCool good at making him mad. So.
Well, you ought to be on the golf course with him, like Sweet and I was this morning. But anyway, yeah,
John Raymond,
we
we
just feel like this would be a small gesture on our
Yeah,
part
on
if we
behalf
could do
of the
this.
board committee, thank you so much for serving and making this recommendation. Coach, thanks for being the lead on this. And so the chair will entertain a motion on G1.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead, Sandy, if you want to.
All right.
We'll have comments. after
Well,
we
you
make
go
a motion.
ahead. You make the motion, I'll second.
I would make the motion that we accept the recommendation of the committee and name the press box after Ron G. Dennis.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Discussion. Board, your opportunity to make any comments you'd like. Everybody's happy. Who could not be in support of this? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, board, we will now go to F3, which I pulled. And specifically, my question, about all of them, the appointments as pursuant to the statute are supposed to be a recommendation from the superintendent in writing, which I guess, this is a recommendation in writing. But for the positions that are being filled, it's supposed to be a specific recommendation. And so the only one that I'm concerned about and that I have objected to or had problems with for over a month, since going back to June, is the purchasing director. And essentially, this should have come to the board prior to the purchasing director being hired, and that's what the statute requires. And in a meeting with Mr. Holmes and myself and the superintendent and the human resource director, take one and pass it down, please. Last Thursday, I thought that was going to be the case, but I see it's not. And originally, I thought I saw on the original agenda that we received that there were recommendations of not just the purchasing director, but two other positions in the instructional side for approval based on what the statute requires. I was made aware of the process or what was happening with the hiring process of the purchasing director. So essentially, it was advertised, and Ms. Gilliard, I think you asked me a couple of meetings ago, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, which job description did I have a problem with? And I said, well, I have a significant problem with the purchasing director job description, which I rewrote completely, sent one that was based on an industry standard, and sent that along with in an email to our human resources director, and said, my recommendation, after I had reviewed all 3 applicants that had applied, and all of them were, either working for the school system or doing consulting for the school system, and I said, none of them are qualified. None of them meet the minimum qualifications of purchasing director. And that is, having a bachelor's degree, and it says desired, but I'm just assuming that would be in business management or an affiliated field, and have significant amount of purchasing experience, in that we're not hiring a clerk, we're hiring a director to hit the ground running. So in that email to to our human resource director, I recommended that she take the job description that I had promulgated, take that to the board for approval, and then re-advertise the job. And her response back to me was just received. Well, that didn't happen. They moved forward with it. They hired the applicant, and now we're in a position as a board to make a decision on hiring somebody that had already resigned their job, and somebody that's completely unqualified for the position. I did some additional research on this, and with respect to the application and the resume of the proposed applicant, and called their former employee and asked if, as was stated on the resume, had this applicant ever done any purchasing or procurement or anything. The answer was no, from the procurement purchasing agent and her assistant. And I think that was confirmed by the assistant county administrator for business management. So, I'm for doing the right thing and hiring the right people. I mean, this is based on our budget this year, a $447 million business. Our business is producing educated, kids, and purchasing, with all we have going on with new construction and that process, for us to have nobody that really has any qualifications or experience, including our purchasing coordinator. He came here, he wasn't in purchasing either, to do this. I guess my biggest question is, why move forward so rapidly with this when that position's been vacant for 5 years? And all of a sudden, we got to have them tomorrow. I'm not looking at who the person is specifically. What I'm looking at is strictly the qualifications. And would we hire a purchasing director to be a principal? I don't think so. But, maybe if they had worked as a purchasing director in the school system, maybe that'd qualify them. So I personally cannot support this appointment. And I'm disappointed that, y'all haven't received, as I understood, as was told, only one other board member had gotten any backup information on this position. No, you'll be right. Let me finish. So and it's been made very clear by the board attorney. We've had 3 meetings, one with the superintendent and the human resources director over a month ago, before the purchasing director was offered the job. The second we had in the board meeting, where Mr. Holmes presented case law that supported the statute, which says we will review the qualifications, the job description, the salaries, and then we make a determination based on the recommendation of the superintendent. That wasn't followed. And we had a meeting just last week where this came up again, and it was clear that what Mr. Holmes and I were told was that, well, if we waited to hire people until in between every board meeting, we wouldn't get anybody hired. And I'm like, and I don't want to speak for the attorney, but his comment was, well, that's not what the statute says. So essentially, the statute was not followed, and, I don't consider this meeting the statute, and irregardless of, what's been done in the past, the administration was aware of this going back before June. And so I would pass the gavel to the vice chairman. I would make a motion to approve all the appointments in F1 except the purchasing director position.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment?
Well, after we had the motion on the floor, needs to be a second and before discussion. Like the motion.
For discussion.
All right, you second for discussion. All right, now comments.
Could I have Ms. Whitehurst come up and respond to the chair's comments, please?
Yes, sir. So I just want to go back through the statute and my understanding of our meeting when Mr. Holmes was in there. We talked about the qualifications, which we discussed. Those are approved by the board through job descriptions. The positions, that is the second item that is listed in that statute. Those positions are approved by the board through personnel allocations. And then the only thing that we did discuss that is not entirely by statute, and then I explained to Mr. Holmes how we did that, because even if you look at our the personnel matters that you have right now, the first person on there was someone who was working at NEFEC, and their effective date was July 1st. Because we have to have the agenda uploaded a week before, you have to have that in a timely manner. You can't keep positions open until you have a board meeting. If we needed to have an emergency board meeting in order to approve personnel matters, we would be having an emergency board meeting multiple times a month, because we hire people and we have start dates throughout the week. We have start dates of people multiple times a week. And so I was explaining to Mr. Holmes that anytime that we hire someone, they're always under a probationary contract. And if it is not approved, then they're under probationary, they would be dismissed. And he asked me if we have that in writing. And I explained to him, I said, no, that is not in writing specifically, but it is stated that it is a contingency, because final approval is not until the board approves it. And so we discussed me adding that statement to our onboarding packet moving forward, and there will be a statement added to our onboarding packet moving forward. I mean, if someone has a better way of doing this, I've looked at board agendas across the state, and it's the same way. I mean, I don't know how for y'all to approve every position and every person that we need to hire before that hire date, not unless y'all want to have a meeting multiple times a month, because that's what it would require. So, based on my understanding and based on practices in human resources across the state, based on what we hear from HR attorneys, these practices do meet that statute.
All right, Mr. Holmes, would you respond to that, please?
What's that statute number again?
10, 12, 22.
Well, 22.22.
So it's always kind of awkward when someone is quoting back and forth from a meeting that was held previously that wasn't recorded. But first of all, I don't know that I understood that you said that the employees were hired and placed on probation, and that was basically your idea of compliance with the statute. I asked and understood you to say that it was a contingent hire, i.e. you're being hired contingent upon board approval. That's what I understood you to say.
Correct, and that is
my idea of probation.
Right.
Now, you and I may have a difference in
Right.
nomenclature there, but my idea of probation, you hire, but you understand that you have 6 months, and if you don't
Right.
perform well in that 6 months or 3 months or whatever, then you may be terminated without having to pay a severance package. So I don't equate probation with a contingent or conditional hiring. And But I did say, and I still would say that if in fact you're hiring specifically contingent upon board approval, so it's almost like a placeholder,
Right.
then I could understand how you could find that to be compliant with the statute. But what I also said was there's nothing in the statute that says that if it's not convenient
Correct.
for you to get the board's approval on an appointment from the superintendent, then it's okay if you don't do it. And I don't really know what other HR attorneys are saying or what other school districts are doing. I think I used in that meeting, if we're going to rehash, I don't know how many times I've heard the comment, well, everybody else was doing it. And you start teaching your kids at about age 4 that everybody else doing it doesn't make it right. And
Correct.
in my business, this is what matters, and interpretations of it. So all I had done from day one was simply say that the statute 10-12-22 basically specifically states as to hiring that the district school board shall act upon written recommendations submitted by the district school superintendent. And I'm not saying that this isn't a written recommendation. I don't know that's not something I would really want to quibble about. If there's a written, list that comes from the superintendent and it's coming to the board as a recommendation, that's sufficient in my opinion. But it says for positions to be filled, for minimum qualifications for personnel for the various positions, and for the persons nominated to fill such positions. So, I mean, and I did research that. If you recall, we had some conversation earlier, because there was a contention that, well, the board's function is basically perfunctory. They really can't reject a recommendation unless there's some extreme cause. And so I provided case law that said basically that in that case, the board had the right to say that someone who had been hired with a master's degree in finance wasn't qualified to serve as a chief finance officer because they didn't have school finance experience. I'm not saying whether that was right or wrong decision on their part. I'm saying that the court found that to be a legitimate cause for not approving the superintendent's recommendation. So my take, and this statute has been in place for a while. It's not been changed. If the legislature wanted to change it, they could have, should have, but it says the school board shall act upon written recommendations submitted by the district school superintendent, skipping over, for the persons nominated to fill such positions. The district school board may reject for a good cause any employee nominated. If the third nomination by the district school superintendent for any position is rejected for a good cause, if the district school superintendent fails to submit a nomination for initial employment within a reasonable time as prescribed by the district school board, or if the district school superintendent fails to submit a nomination for reemployment within the time prescribed by law, the district school board may proceed on its own to fill the position. So from my and then it goes on to say the district school board's decision to reject a person's nomination does not give that person a right of action to sue over the rejection and may not be used as a cause of action by the nominated employee. So when I read that in context, it's clear to me that the board does have a function that's not perfunctory. And all I've said from day one, it's not for me to get into whether someone is qualified. Specifically, that's not in my lane. And quite frankly, as you know, I don't interject a lot. But if I'm specifically asked my thoughts about a statute, then I feel like it's my obligation to state my thoughts about that statute. And in this case, my thoughts are that the board has not just a right, but an obligation, because the statute says you do, to consider the recommendation, the nomination of the school superintendent for positions. And it doesn't say all positions above a different level. We went over that.
Right.
I actually kind of thought it might, but it doesn't.
Correct.
It says all positions. And it doesn't say that, if you don't have enough board meetings in a month, and let's just skip this. We won't worry about this statute if there's not enough board meetings in a month for us to comply with it in a convenient way. It just says that the board is to act. So my thing was, I understand there's a practical side to business, and you're a business in a way. I mean, you're a business of educating kids. But my thing was, I get the fact that if a person is willing to sign on a contingent appointment, understanding that their application nomination is going to be considered by the board, and the board may or may not approve it, then I understand the problem with that. especially if somebody's already got a job and they're having to give that job up, or they choose to give that job up in order to be a nominee. But I don't see anything in the statute that gives you an exception. And if somebody can point to one, I'm
Right.
tickled to death to look at it and offer an opinion. But until then, I'm not. And I asked you, and you're right, I said, so was Mr. Helms, because we were talking about that particular appointment, since we're going to get into that discussion. I said, so was Mr. Helms told that his appointment was contingent? And you said yes. And I said, in writing. And you said no.
Correct.
And I said, well, the lawyer in me says that
Right.
probably it ought to be in
Right.
your package, that this is
And-
a contingent appointment and that the board, may or may not reject it. That's, that's accurate.
Correct.
And that's, so I'm not criticizing, I'm not weighing in on anybody's qualifications. I think that's outside of my lane. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying that. And, I think I also told you then, I've had the privilege of representing a lot of boards over the years. I don't tell any board what they have to do. Never have, never will. I'll tell the board, in my opinion, what the law says they should do.
Right.
And then my goal is that if something happens and someone accuses the board of not fulfilling their obligation, I feel like I've failed if I haven't made sure they understand what my opinion of their obligation is.
Correct.
And as an attorney, I think you might understand that. Maybe hopefully the rest of you can understand it too. So I'm not trying to weigh in and be on anybody's side. I've got a statute to look at, and so
Right.
that has been my opinion exactly as
Right.
I've made it. So if Mr. Helms was hired on a contingency, he understands that he resigned his job to take a position that the board might or might not approve, and the board doesn't approve it, then it is what it is. On the other hand, if the board approves it, then fine.
Right.
But I think it is for the board to make a decision, and I don't think it's a perfunctory one. If it was, I don't think you'd have all this
Correct.
print devoted to it in the statute. They'd simply say, well, you know what they could say. So that's
Yes, sir.
I'd like, Mr. Chairman, to give a little history on purchasing positions, transportation
Yes,
positions,
sir. You're recognized.
human resources positions in Putnam County Schools. To look at the candidate in question, it was a high school principal for years, ran $1 million budget out there. But it was not uncommon and has not been uncommon for, in the past, Putnam County School District to have a purchasing director that had no college education. It's also not uncommon for a transportation director in Putnam County School District that didn't have a background in traffic safety and transportation. They might have been a human resources director or a principal or whoever was selected to lead the transportation department. Human resources the same way. They don't have to have necessarily, unless the board sets up some type of qualification that they're dead set on doing, that would bar someone that could do the job. A human resources director, you couldn't put a long-time principal in human resources. And my perspective, like I told you guys in the last meeting, is dealt from the options that the school superintendent has, and obviously the board has to work. And we can make it as difficult for a school superintendent to operate as we choose to do. We can make his job miserable, like many school board members do across the state of Florida. Or we can try to find ways that if in the event a principal had a sickness or an illness, we've got somebody running a department that could go in and cover a school and save us $100,000. I understand the lingo with our attorney went through, and that's his job. But I also know as a school superintendent, you need the latitude to be able to place people where you feel like they can most benefit the district and at what time that would be. So, I mean, the young man is a longtime educator. He's a product of Putnam County. That doesn't necessarily open the door and say he should get whatever he wants, but I mean, he's operated and managed a $1 million budget over the years and hundreds of employees and dealt with thousands of students in Putnam County. So I don't have a problem with accepting the recommendation, but you guys would have figured that after the last few meetings when I kind of
Well,
zeroed in on. But I'm
one question, Mr. Buckles. So
Yes, sir.
you believe this board should hire directors in positions where they have no educational background, no experience, and we're paying them $100,000 benefits. I mean, that I could understand if it was a clerk position, but you know, we're running a $500 million business here, and to hire people, you know, on the job training, maybe that was the case, you know, in the back, and it worked well, but things have progressed to the point where it's imperative, I believe, as having been in business and having, you know, worked in local, state, and federal government, that we have qualified people, especially when it's a director position. I mean, so we're going to pay somebody $100 and whatever $1,000 a year to be on the job training, and then what happens if we get sued? As Mr. Holmes pointed out to the human resource director and the superintendent in our meeting, one of these bids that our contractors submit, multi-million-dollar bid, gets challenged. And what are they going to do? They're going to call the purchasing director to court. They're going to testify, and I'm paraphrasing you, Mr. Holmes, and they're going to ask you, well, what's your experience and what certifications do you have in purchasing? And they're going to say, well, none. So what do you think is going to happen? The district's going to be sued, and we could end up owing, you know, millions of dollars. So
You can end up owing millions of dollars if that's the most qualified person in America, and they make a mistake, you can still wind up owing millions of dollars. So I'm telling you, when you got people that can handle jobs locally, that are local people, and they know the community, they know how to build and what's important in a high school if he's going to be working in that area. And we're looking at Interlochen High School coming up in the future, and then Palatka High. I see it as invaluable experience, but
okay.
I look out there and I see people in the audience that were principals that wound up handling some of these district level jobs and over the years and retired.
Okay, so your answer to my question was yes.
My answer is that I'm going to support the recommendation from Mr. Helms.
Okay, any other board comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I did, simply because I was also looking into this, and one of the reasons that I was delving into this more, and Ms. Whitehurst has been very helpful in discussing things with me. You know, I'm a longtime resident of Putnam County. As you know, I'm not a longtime resident of Palatka, and I don't know everybody's families and grandkids and all of that. But I've had people in the community reach out to me multiple times. I spent 2 hours on the phone with one a few nights ago. Very intelligent people that are asking very intelligent questions. And I feel it was, you know, I felt at that point it's my duty, not just one person, several. And I felt obligated to at least look into this. You know, if I can find some information to provide to them that says, this is why we're doing this and this is what's going on. You know, maybe they were wrong about some assumptions, all that. I just want to, they're asking for transparency, and I'm trying to help provide that when they contact me, and I appreciate them contacting me. But they had seen our board meeting, and they supported some of the things that Phil had brought up. So I was looking into that myself, and was actually going to talk to about this at the end of the meeting, but I didn't know Phil was bringing this to the table today. So I just wanted to say, in response a little bit to David, you know, I totally understand sometimes the way it's been is the way it's been because it has worked well. And sometimes it's, you don't want to fix something that's not broke. And I agree with that. At the same time, being an attorney, I go by this as well. And I do have one question for Ms. Whitehurst while I'm at it. In paragraph numbered 4, right in the middle of the statute here, I'm sorry, not 4B, it says the district school board shall act no later than 3 weeks following the receipt. And I don't understand some of this, but following the receipt of statewide standardized assessment scores and data under section 1008.22 and school grades or June 30th, whichever is later on the district school superintendent's nominations of supervisors, principals, and members of the instructional staff. Now, I don't know specifically where this position lands in that, but you had mentioned if we were gonna approve everybody, we'd have
Right.
to be meeting multiple times. That gives us 3 weeks, at least on certain
Right.
positions. Is
That position is not one of those. That would be positions that are directly tied to student data. Is what that's talking about. Yep.
But it specifies a time period there of
Right.
3
I-
weeks. And I'm kind of surprised it doesn't specify something
Right.
for anyone else, but they at least had considered a time frame for some of them. And if that would be possible, it seems reasonable to think we could still do it if they give them 3 weeks. I don't know why we couldn't.
So are you asking for
arrange this.
within like 3 weeks after the hire, before the hire date?
It says within 3 weeks. This says because of the
Right.
categories,
Right.
within 3 weeks after receipt of the standardized assessment scores and score
Yeah,
grades
I-
before June 30th. So it's kind of,
I really don't think that applies to this position, though, in
Right.
all fairness. Now, I'm not saying that I've got all the answers, but this does state that the context of this, when it references standardized assessment scores and data under 1000822, would seem to specifically direct that passage to the instructional staff, supervisors,
Correct.
principals, and teachers. That would be my read on that.
but it seems, I'm just trying to pull from that though. If, if there's 3 weeks for some folks, I just seem to think there should be some middle ground here where we can be compliant with the statute and make the decisions we need with trying to keep the efficiency of the district
Right.
happening. I
Right.
don't have an answer on how to do that, but specifically to this situation and this one particular position, I don't know the person in question. I just know that it's being questioned by at least several of my constituents, and perception matters. I've said that before in our meetings, and so I'm just trying to figure out what did in fact happen. I know I was questioned whether the position had been advertised. You confirmed for me that it had been advertised the same way as everyone else. That made me feel a little better on that. But I do have to agree with Phil and the board attorney, if we are not subscribing to what we're supposed to be doing,
Well, I would just say then that means every person on here as a recommendation, because there's not any date on here that is beyond August 5th for any of these recommendations. So if that's what it's being based on, then you cannot recommend any of these people. You cannot approve any of these people because they all have a date before today.
That 3 weeks is not a mandatory waiting period for
I just,
anyone
yeah.
other than instructional personnel.
I was
Well,
not
and
trying to
actually-
insinuate that.
No, I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but I'm just trying to make sure that we keep
Right.
it kind
But
of.
there are people on here that's not instructional. Then they had start dates of July 23rd, August 4th, July 7th, August 4th, July 23rd.
And so
That
I don't know
that's
what that is supposed to, that point is supposed to suggest, but, I think that, the statute's pretty clear, but I too do understand that you can make a contingent hire, and by far and away, the run-of-the-mill, and I shouldn't say run-of-the-mill, but ordinary hire is going to be a teacher, a principal. That's that's a skill set that everybody's the selection people are relatively familiar with. If you got the teacher certificate and so forth and so on, the odds of it not being approved are probably pretty small. But the statute, again, doesn't say below a position, certain level, above a certain level. It says everybody is going to be submitted to them
Right.
for review. And so I would offer an opinion, which is all I do, is offer opinions. I'm not a king. I would offer the opinion that, if it's a contingent hire and that's what you're doing effective August 4, and you're presenting it to the board now, I don't see that running afoul of the statute. You know, as long as everybody understands that they're not obligated to rubber stamp it just
Correct.
because you've told the person they can come on and start working.
Yes, sir.
And that they got a contingent hire. Because if that becomes the case, then this statute means nothing.
Correct.
If they were gonna say unless the HR director has already decided to hire them because it's not convenient to wait for the board to meet, they could put that in there if they wanted to. It might be,
Right.
it'd make your job a lot easier. But it's not here.
Correct.
And all I'm doing is working with what's here. So
Well,
that's-
and it wouldn't be uncommon for a superintendent to send, or a HR director to send principals or assistant principals to Indiana State University to look at hiring prospective administrators or teachers. It wouldn't be uncommon to send them to Louisiana. I mean, I've been sent to Louisiana and hired people, and you know, Tim Adams was hired that way, and it wasn't by somebody with some kind of, you know, required board. I don't know. You know, I understand, but I'm ready to make a motion.
Well, I'm not ready for a motion.
Well,
We still have
I'll be
discussion.
ready just as quick as you are.
Miss, well, we're operating under Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure. Every board member gets the opportunity to speak once before a board member can speak the second time.
Thank you.
So.
Okay,
Ms.
I was
Gilliard.
just gonna ask, in the job description, you said there was a part of it that you were concerned about, and it's not necessarily, well, it is specifically focusing on having done the job of a purchasing,
A purchasing director,
okay? And
not just a purchasing person, but a purchasing director. This is a senior level position, all right?
Okay, because I
Did you
was-
have a question, Ms. Pickens?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Because
are
I-
you finished? I'm sorry, Ms.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, because I was looking at
Right.
what is listed here, strategic leadership, procurement, and bidding, you know, and, you know, as a
Yeah, and that,
purchasing, budget
and-
management and regular, but you
Right.
said it had to be director.
yes, ma'am. That's what I mean, that's the way I read it.
Okay.
All right, before we go to you, Ms. Pickens, did you have any other comments?
Well, I do have
Go
some
ahead. Go ahead.
comments.
You're recognized.
Thank you. You made a job description that you felt was adequate.
Correct. A job description that has been used recently in the private sector that is also a kind of a very similar to what we use in the public sector at USDA.
Okay, and that was before we advertised for the position?
No, that was after the
after.
advertisements have been made. There have been, and the job was advertised two ways: internally and on the Indeed website, not in the state associations of purchasing directors or any affiliated purchasing organization. Which to me is you might as well just hung a sign up out there on the bridge. But we did get 3 applicants, all school related, either former, current, or consulting or contractors. I reviewed all those, and none of them qualified, not even remotely qualified to the inadequate job description that we had that needed to be rewritten. So on June 24th, before the applicant was hired, I sent that email and said, my recommendation as a board member is that the board review the new job description, approve it, and then re-advertise it. Nothing happened. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, Ms. Whitehurst, in the job description, the person didn't necessarily have to have a bachelor's degree if they had experience.
Right, and
that
the
correct?
the person that we have recommended has a master's degree.
Has a master's degree.
I'm sorry.
Is it in his master's? Is it
Ed
in
leadership, mhm.
Education. Okay.
And then the second qualification refers to experience in, I have it right here.
Business
General
environment,
business
which
environment.
And
that
then
would be
what is the next piece? There's a part about
directly involved with school operations.
school operations and management, and he has several years of that experience.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. You're recognized, Mr.
Thank you.
Superintendent.
Did the board not approve the current job description recently?
No, sir, that job description we've had for quite a while, so we did not bring it back up for approval because, I mean, if we have one that's been approved before, we use those job descriptions unless there are significant changes to it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll,
I do have one
yes,
other
ma'am, go ahead,
comment.
Ms.
The person that we are discussing, I served on an insurance committee, the district insurance committee, and he doesn't have a degree in insurance. And he's at the top of understanding insurance. And so, I've also witnessed him creating a great environment at a school. And I think that's, extremely important. I feel like if you're gonna, I just feel like no one that applied had any of these job requirements.
We had more than 3 applicants. It was narrowed down to 3.
3 they interviewed.
And that those 3 received a phase 1. Any support admin position, we do 2 phases to interviews, and we always give them a scenario where they have to do written responses. And 2 of the 3 that we sent that to responded, 1 did not. So we took those 2 and we did interviews, and we have a rubric and we rated it. And this person scored significantly higher than the other person that we interviewed.
And your committee?
And all of that is following our hiring protocols that we have in place.
Would you
Yes,
tell-
there was a
tell them
committee.
The interview, the committee who the members of the committee that reviewed it, reviewed
It
the
was
applicants?
myself, Patrick Winneck from NEFAC, and Jonathan Odom.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, any other comments, Ms.? All right, you have a question, go ahead.
Just going back to the statute and everything, the attorney had mentioned, you had said that this position was made, contingent, that he knew it was contingent.
It's all of our employees understand. We say it's in board policy that the board has final approval on any appointment. And so they are contingent. It is not written as this is a contingency offer until board approval. And that is one of the things that I said is that we can easily add that statement to our onboarding packet and have them acknowledge that.
I personally think
Yep,
that's
and-
important.
correct.
Because like the liability we were talking
Right.
about, I am not a negligence attorney.
Right.
But I do remember a few things from law school, and one of them is negligent hiring. And if you have someone that's not qualified or not trained well enough or any of that in a position, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and something happens, and whether it, by their negligence, whether it's a decision or if it's a physical act, you can be held responsible for negligent hiring, because it is up to us to make sure people are, I haven't seen a resume, on this person or anybody else, so I don't know the qualifications, but, so I can't speak to that, but I'm just trying to make sure, at a minimum going forward, I wanna make sure that we are, complying with the statute. I mean, without,
Yeah, I want to make sure we comply with statute. I'm
Yeah.
a rule follower.
And I'm just, again, I think there has to be some common ground here where we aren't doing it just because it's always been done, and we're doing it transparently in the
Correct.
sunshine and all of that, because the community needs to have faith in our procedures. And if we can't agree on whether we're following a statute or not, then how are they gonna have faith?
Right.
So I just wanna make, at least at a minimum going forward, and I think we're gonna
Yes,
discuss.
that will be
something
added to our onboarding packet as an acknowledgement.
All right, any other comments? The motion failed, so I believe Mr. Buckles has a motion that he wants to make.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation to hire the purchasing director as presented by the superintendent.
And all of the other,
Yeah,
And all
wouldn't
the
that need
others,
to be all
the folks.
of F3?
So help me out procedurally, you said the motion failed, but
didn't-
you got a motion and a second.
We didn't vote, we just.
we didn't
No,
vote.
Hers
Okay, I'm
was a
sorry.
second for
All right, we
discussion.
were under discussion, so take the chair back.
So we have a motion to accept,
No, we gotta do my
The- it was-
motion first.
it was the,
It was,
No,
motion
she
was to
said
accept the
except
entire
all
list.
of them, except purchasing.
The director of purchasing. So we had a motion and a second to accept, I don't know the number on the agenda,
F3.
F3, minus the appointment of Mr. Helms' position, director of purchasing. And we had a second.
I have a question.
All right,
So so your motion is, say that again?
Because yours was for discussion.
My motion, which was seconded by the vice chair, was to approve all the appointments under F3 with exception of the purchasing director.
So that would be to disapprove.
Correct.
Okay.
If, I just want
Yep.
Well, I mean,
Call the
think-
question.
Well, I think you've got to ask another you have to have another motion.
I think technically that you made a motion to approve everybody on the list, with the exception of the purchasing director. You didn't say to reject them, you just said
Yeah.
everybody else on the list.
Right.
In my opinion, if you pass that motion, then everybody but the purchasing director would be approved. There could be a second motion then to approve the purchasing director,
I just made that motion a while ago.
but you can't make it till after this.
This
vote.
one is-
Well, I want them to call the question and let's go ahead. Fish or cut bait. Let's go.
I think they were trying to figure out exactly what the motion was and what its impact would be, because I don't think it would be necessarily a
Prolong
rejection
The
of
agony.
Mr. Helms as purchasing director. I think it would just not be an approval in this motion, leaving it open for someone to make a motion with regard to Mr. Helms. That's my opinion.
And that's where I
Question
saw.
on the motion.
Yeah.
Question on my motion, so just we need to vote on it.
Okay, so we are voting on his motion to approve everyone except for Mr. Helms. Is that worded correctly?
The purchasing, the
purchasing
position.
director.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, all in favor say aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and the nays?
Maybe better do by roll
If
call.
you left Helms off, a no vote's an affirmative vote in Robert's Rules of Order. I may be wrong. Am I wrong on that, Don? I don't know.
No votes in affirmative.
Well, she said I didn't vote. I don't know if you were talking about me
I don't
just then.
know who she was talking about. I don't know who all voted.
All right, so we've just voted to accept all the people on the list except one.
What was the vote? Can I just clarify that for the record?
Well, I saw a couple say yay. I didn't say anything, but it doesn't mean I said no.
Okay.
I don't have,
I don't think you have a record that reflects what the vote was. I'll just leave it at that.
Let's do
You can-
roll call.
can we do a roll call?
Sure.
For
Now-
clarification,
Yes.
what we voted on was to accept everyone except the purchasing director.
Correct.
And then we can have a motion. Okay.
Sure, because if, think about it this way, if the motion had been to accept everybody on the list, but specifically reject the purchasing director, that's
that
a
was-
different motion.
right.
But that's not what the motion was.
It was for
The motion was
discussion.
to
Discussion.
approve everybody except the purchasing director. So that leaves open the question of the purchasing director, which you can then handle by separate motion.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're happy with everybody on the list, if you're happy with everybody on the list and you're taking the purchasing director out of the list, then you vote in favor of the motion that Mr. Leary made.
Yes.
Roll call vote.
All right, roll call. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
All right, so everybody's approved by Mr. Helms. That leaves that question open now for a motion.
Now-
Now, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the superintendent's recommendation to hire the purchasing director.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so discussion. So, any board want to make any discussion, have any comments before I start? Okay. This is absolutely, in my almost 40-year professional career, the most unintendable position that I've ever been put in. And I can tell you that I'm not happy about it. Had we just, and listen, I'm one board member. I'm not, never spoke for the board, not trying to say. I'm just saying, in my professional experience, having hired purchasing directors and been an administrator in government and in the private sector, that as a director, that the applicant did not meet the qualifications, neither did any of the other applicants, but the successful candidate. I think this was handled extremely poorly, and it also put the applicant in a very bad position because he had resigned his position and had already come to work. And, I guess, either assuming that the board, it would just be a perfunctory approval or that they had the votes. I'm not happy about being put in this position, and I can promise you that if I'm ever put in this position again, there will be consequences. So I can't support the motion, but I do feel that we need to follow the statute, and we're either going to be, follow the statute and have a professional staff with both education, experience, and qualifications, especially at the director level. And, I don't think that being a school principal, which he was an outstanding one, and I will say that he did an incredible job. And when he was with the school district, and if we were hiring him for a principal, I'd be the first one to stand up and say, man, let's get him right now. That's not what the case is. So with that, we have a motion and a second.
I need to make a comment,
Okay.
and I need to clarify what you mean by consequences.
Well,
Because to me, you're making some kind of veiled threat to the administration about
not making-
our recommendations.
I can tell you that,
Tell me what tell me what the consequences are.
what is the consequence for anybody that doesn't follow the statute?
You tell me. You're the one that said
No, I'm
you
just
brought it
saying,
up.
you don't know?
No, I'm asking you. You're the one that made the comment.
Well,
Tell me what you mean by the
It's
consequence.
an ethical violation.
Okay, so what happens?
Goes to the Ethics Commission.
Okay.
I mean, you can ask Mr. Buckles, he's been through the Ethics Commission. It's not.
And
it's
you've
not
had
a
your
threat.
share of stuff too, so we're all
Yeah.
kind of painted with the same
So-
brush from time to time.
So what I'm saying is that I think the attorney's been very clear on the way the process goes, and I think we'll decide in the later in the agenda on L2 who we're going to want to look at. And I think that the instructional side, I think that the state qualifications and licenses and education that are required for teachers and administrators is all straightforward, and that I'm not an educator. We got 3 on here that are, and so I would acquiesce to their experience and recommendation from that standpoint. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Aye. So motion carries 3-2. Okay, all right. We will now go to
Did you get that?
we are now into finished consent agenda. We're into no. All right, we'll go to new business in L1 and the discussion on new business amended acreage purchase at 221 Round Lake Road in conjunction with the Kelly Smith Elementary School. And who's Mr. Bowling, or who's gonna, or Mr.
Sir?
Are you doing it?
Sorry, I was paying my respects to the gentleman.
Okay. All right, Mark, is it you or Mr. Bowling gonna handle this?
Travis, which one are we on?
L1.
Yes, sir, you're on.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
Travis is our surveyor, and Mark is here on behalf of the Beaton Ball. This is about the property that we have under contract from the Beaton Balls.
All right, so you're recognized.
Okay. I was brought here today. We're working for Kimley Horn, the engineer. We were hired to provide them with a boundary survey of this 10 acres along with the remaining school parcel, the topographic information so they can design.
Could you just, for the record, give your full name and your address?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I was going to ask about that. Travis Barano, 1309 Southeast 25th Loop, Suite 103, Ocala, Florida, 34471.
Thank you. You proceed.
We've worked on many school projects in Marion County with Kimley Horn, and they asked us to come up here and work with them on this one. And we had a couple different tasks at hand, and one of them was this 10 acres that you guys were looking at from Mr. Bienbaum. And when we got up here, We had done our initial research in the office and used the state road maps for 20 and 19 to kind of break down the overall section, and came up and realized when we started going around that some of the corners were conflicting with the other corners that we found in the area, and started going back and doing our research and kind of figured out what was going on. Back in the mid 80s or early 80s, there was a farm that was broken up by a gentleman out of Manor Ridge, a surveyor that's no longer practicing, but from the thought process of it is he held some corners that were forestry corners that aren't quite where the actual section line is. They're like markers for the timber people when they're timbering to say, hey, stop. They usually stick about shin to knee high, and you can hit them as you're walking through on the fire break. So I believe what has happened is the surveyor from the 80s came, located these corners, and held them as like the section corners, and broke down this piece of property that the Beedenballs owned, or, well, that they had purchased. Somebody at the other time had owned it at that time. And they broke down their breakouts of these individual parcels. The true section lines run about due east and west, and these run about 1.5 degrees off. So we have this kind of overlap situation. And we've met with the owners of these parcels and kind of explained to them what's going on. And we met in the field a couple weeks ago and kind of came to the decision that they wanted a little bit of a buffer, and there's a 66-foot easement running through there, and we decided we would hold that north boundary of the easement line and create a new parcel that would be a little shy of 10 acres. I think it's 9.46 is what we've recommended.
So initially, the board signed up for 9.5 acres, and then when you did your initial survey, it seemed as if we were getting about 10.5 acres. The problem with it was we were taking up a right-of-way that he mentioned, a road that they use, and then actually some of the neighbors' yard, which we had no intention of doing, and you know, we weren't, that's not what we illustrated to the board to buy to begin with. So what they're actually, what we're proposing is to shift the boundary line up to where we originally thought it was to begin with, getting that acreage that we intentionally thought we were buying to begin with, without taking up neighbors' property and infringing upon their this privacy. If we own part of a yard, we have to put a fence in it because it's school board property for liability purposes, and we don't want to do that. We went out and we spoke to all of the neighbors, and we kind of had a gentleman's agreement on the table that we would do our best to bring this to the board and you know, just give you the facts. We don't need the property and the property that we do need is what we understood we were buying to begin with, essentially.
So for clarification, if I could, we've got a diagram, and I don't know, I guess it's not up anywhere, but
I think you guys have printed copies of it.
Yeah, it's on the agenda
do.
too, under
so
the agenda.
you don't have this?
You ain't kin of the local Barano's?
So
Dr. Barano's?
It's on the agenda.
if the diagram I'm looking at is the one that you're referencing, it shows a shaded area that would be on the easterly side of the property, and it runs north to south. Is that the property we're talking about?
I'm not.
Can you?
I'll step around and come look. She's looking at a survey,
Yeah.
and has got the shaded. I'm not sure what he's looking at. I just want to make
Same
sure.
thing. I'm pretty sure.
You're on the board
agenda. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
same
on the
thing.
board agenda for this
Yeah,
item, so
same
maybe.
thing that Miss Pickens has got up on her screen.
So, what was your question? I apologize. I was trying to.
That's all right, no
Pick up
problem.
what you're saying.
Do you need to see this to see if
No, we're looking at the same thing over here. We're looking over the same thing.
Okay. This is posted on the board docs as under this agenda item.
Yes,
So my
sir.
question is, there's a shaded area that's to the east. It's the easterly side of this survey,
Yes, sir.
assuming that arrow points north as it does with most surveys.
Yes, sir.
So there's a shaded area on the easterly side that runs north-south, and you're talking about, so you're only talking about the northerly boundary of that shaded area, or are you talking about the entire shaded area?
No, that shaded area is to the east of this project. That's the actual road. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the road. Brown Lake Road. We're talking about what you guys refer to as Donnelly Road. the skews there. If you look down at the very south end of the map, you'll see all of the neighboring parcels that we have been referring to. The degree and a half that I was talking about, when you push that line through, based on it, it encompasses power poles and columns and fences. Everything from the 80s was built off of these monuments. And the south line is, we're holding the south line of the north line of the 66-foot easement as the new school board parcel. This line. Technically, you guys were looking at purchasing all of this down here. And Mr. Thomas said there's no reason to have all of that extra stuff.
Gotcha. So I think I'm understanding, thanks to Mr. Spalding, and I'm not any disservice to you. I just didn't understand what we're talking about. I see the shaded area, and normally the shaded area is what I direct my attention to when people
Yes, sir.
talk about property dispute. But you're talking about then there's a heavy dark line that's on the south side of your survey.
Yes, sir.
Running east and west, and then below that are dotted lines.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Spalding indicated to me that the heavy dark line would be the north boundary of the 66-foot easement.
Yes, sir.
And so what basically we're talking about is essentially retracting the description of the property the school board would be acquiring so that it would be consistent with that north line of the 66-foot easement.
Correct. That is
And
what
then
we're...
the property south of that, which is the easement, and also I think that's what kind of pours over onto some of the neighbors' property too.
Yes.
We would basically not be including that in the description of what the board purchased.
Correct. My recommendation was for us to write a meets and bounds legal description versus the aliquot parts that it's described as now, to clean up some of the stuff, and then after we're done, working with the homeowners to kind of clean up what they've got going on.
And when I did appear at the city commission, actually I think it was the planning commission first, in seeking annexation and comp plan and zoning, there were some of the neighbors that were there. They were very courteous.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Very
They've
nice.
been-
But they did indicate that they were concerned because they had felt like they had been tending that property, cared for it, manicured it, all that, and it thought it was theirs, and thought there might be now a boundary line dispute, and so from my perspective, it would be something that would be well received by them if the school board were to accommodate them by not taking in that 66-foot easement.
Yes, sir. I know, like I was saying, the stuff that's built out there was built to those monuments that we found in place to be that aren't correct in the correct positions. They've been there since the mid to early 80s, and everything was built that way. And when you start trying to move stuff, you're going to run into all kinds of problems. So we felt the best way to solve all this was to just hold the north line of that 66-foot easement, and they would give a little buffer between the houses and the school. And
Like you've heard, I mean, we can make this as difficult as we want, and we can try to force our way in, even got eminent domain if we wanted to take it, but we don't want to do that. We want to do what the superintendent and staff have recommended. So I think that's where I'm coming from, to go ahead and, even though we have the right, even though we can do it, doesn't mean we have to do it.
All right, board, any questions for the surveyor or?
Because we have enough to do what we need to do
Okay.
and still maintain
Oh,
a
yeah. Oh,
cordial
absolutely. Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, we got way
Constituents.
extensive
So,
buffer.
so I say,
All right, so if everybody's good, I'll entertain a motion on L1.
I make a motion, we approve L1.
Have a second? Second. I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Huh? Ms. Wagner. All right. We will move to consensus to advertise new policies.
have a great day.
And both the staff AI policy and the student AI policy that was in the packet and pretty well explained. So
okay. Yeah, I
Go.
did ask Mr. Lennon Hardy if he would come up just by way of sharing what it is, because I had some concerns, and once explained to me you've been using it all along.
All right.
But anyway,
All right,
and,
Mr.
and,
Harvey?
and Mrs. Pickens had some, I had an
All right,
uneasiness.
thank you. You're recognized, sir.
Lennon Harvey, IT Director for Putnam County School District. So I first kind of want to let everybody know that y'all been using AI for years and years. So I'm just kind of go over some things that is under the AI umbrella. So TikTok video recommendations, Instagram Reel, that's all AI. Spotify, Pandora, those recommendations, suggestions, that's AI. Virtual assistants when you call your bank and it's listening to, I want to talk about my accounts. It's using AI technology. Voice activated phone systems at banks, avatar creations. I'm taking my phone and I'm doing what is that one app? Snapchat, and putting
Sandy.
filters on my face.
She does it all the time. Yeah.
That's all AI. That's all AI. So some of the AI that we're currently using in the district is Amira Learning. We're gonna be using Google Gemini. So AI has built up over the past couple of years. ChatGPT is one of the most popular ones. We don't allow students to use ChatGPT within our district. What we want to allow students to use, because they're using it anyways, they're using it when they go home and then they're doing book reports. And AI is not able to, or, we have programs like Turnitin that spots some of the plagiarism.
Yeah.
Your AI.
AI is too advanced right now. Right. So what we want to do is put some parameters, put some structure around AI usage for both staff members, so they're not putting in personal identifiable information, not putting in pictures of students, not putting in their names or anything like that to make a seating chart. We want to protect our students, but we also want to make sure that we're putting parameters on the students. And if they're using AI, tell them, okay, if you're using it to, don't use it to do book reports, cite your stuff, don't use it for nefarious purposes. So we just created policies for y'all to look at and just kind of give parameter structure for using it ethically, because it's happening, it's here, and we need to embrace the system.
And as I read it, the first thought came to my mind, not if a student does this.
Yeah, they're already doing
It's a win.
They're doing it.
It's a win. And that you explained to me about deep fake, oh my word.
So yeah, there is deep fake where, I don't know that it's happening in our district, but there are apps where you can put someone else's face or your face on another person's body and say that they put them in an uncompromising position. I mean, that's happening out there. We see that on news reports. We see our president is being deep faked. So we just want to make sure that we are telling the kids, if you are caught doing this and you're using it for nefarious purposes, we have documentation that says you're not supposed to do this. I mean, I think I included in the policy, and this is for the principal to decide if they want to do that, have kids sign off saying, I understand how I'm supposed to use AI, and if I use it in a way that it's against the policy, that I can be reprimanded for it. So we just want to make sure that we put that language in place.
And I want to say too that Lyndon went through a long process of vetting this. I know we had a training recently, and principals, directors, and that type of thing had a chance to comment on it, on both the student and the.
Yeah, and we even talked to students. We started with students. We got with leadership team. We talked to teachers at the Navigate Summit. So we've had like a lot of input on creating this policy, just so we can make sure that everything's covered, and just kind of do what some of our other partnering districts are already doing. So we just want to make sure we're staying up to date.
All right, thank you. Questions, Ms. Pickens?
I had a question, but Ms. France explained it to me. I didn't like how it said "and other," it listed ChatGPT and then it said "and other," things that might come on. And she explained it that you already know what like another program.
Yeah,
that
and
wanna
we
add.
specifically mentioned all the ones that are in Clever. So there might be some more that, there might be some other programs that we adopt, but anything that we put in Clever, and that's why when we mentioned Clever, then those are approved by the district. That would be approved by
And she
us.
said that they would be, it's not like, it'll be up in that little waffle
Yes, ma'am.
where you, yeah, so you can,
I mean,
thank you for that.
yes,
I just wanna
I'm
say,
good.
I was very pleasantly surprised to see that because in any, in any company or governmental entity, policy takes forever to catch up with technology. And the hands-on, usable AI stuff.
Yeah.
Regular AI has been around for a while, but not the stuff that we're using on a daily basis as much. And so I'm real happy to see us have a good policy.
Yeah.
And you know what I used to create that policy?
Yeah.
I just went on to ChatGPT over the last month or so, and it's very dangerous
It
as
is.
an attorney in particular, because it gave me the best case I could have ever thought of to cite, and if I had not gone to look at it, I would not have realized it didn't even exist.
Yep.
So it's not always correct. I told it yesterday when it gave me a response. I said, "You're wrong. I am allowed to do this." And he said, "Thanks for the correction. You are absolutely right." And then it changed it, but it wouldn't have done it if I hadn't have said you're wrong. So definitely, it's one of those trust but verify kind of.
And we are partnering with a business that is providing us great instructions for our staff members once this is adopted. We did this during the Navigate Summit where we had 60 teachers. They were briefed by a business, I don't want to mention the business name, but just gave a lot of great information on how to use AI ethically. And we're going to continue doing that and make sure that our staff members are trained. So.
All right, any other questions or comments? Mr. Harvey, thank you so much. Great explanation and a good backup in the agenda item. So, board, we will, the chair will entertain a motion on L2 for the consensus to advertise the new AI policies.
I'll offer a motion that we do L2 consensus to advertise new policies, staff AI policy and student AI policy.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Board, we will now move to consensus to advertise amended policy 5200, which was also in our packet. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Good.
No,
You have anything?
but
No,
I
sir.
do think, when I was talking to Ms. France, the 50% of the school day, and it's gonna be tracked. So
Absolutely.
students need to understand that.
And if I understand that right, Mr. Superintendent.
And parents,
that-
yes.
That if they're not there, then we don't get credit for that day under our payment fee, correct?
That's
Okay.
my understanding, yes.
All right. Okay, all right. Well, in that case, we will, Chair will entertain a motion. L3. Oh, you made a motion? Did you make a
No,
motion?
no, I will.
Mr. Chair, I offer a motion that we advertise the amended policy 5200.
Okay.
So-
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. L4, the consensus to advertise the amendments to the bylaws and policies as stated here. Do we need to read them into each one individually?
I do not believe so. They're
Okay.
stated.
All right.
as-
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Buffett, you make the motion.
Yes, sir.
I'll
Yes.
make the motion. and you can
Now I
ask
wanna
the question,
ask.
Sandy.
All right, have a motion to approve. We have a second. Have a second. All right, discussion.
Yes, sir. It was the one, I printed it out regarding mothers nursing the babies. Yeah, here it is. 4425, yeah, nursing mothers. And everything is deleted. I mean, there's a line that went through everything. So is that one no longer?
There's one right
It's
next.
4425.
There's
So the
one
one next
next
to it
to
is the
it
new
is-
one. So they got rid of all of this and took in that one. Okay, all right. I'm good. That's all I needed to know was just it.
I had a couple of questions on, it was 3362 and 4210. There was, it was on ethical conduct and anti-harassment. And there's just a one, it recommends that we use the language. And so is that what we're voting on? It was like right in the middle is the only change to the policy and it said, although that wasn't a policy, they recommended that we continue to use that language.
Well, we're voting on to advertise, but that's the way you explained is what I interpret.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody have any comments or questions on that?
I think you're talking about the drafting note that's in the middle of it.
Yes.
In green.
Those just had technical corrections where a statute was added.
Okay.
They said it's not mandatory.
Okay.
We create an informal complaint procedure, but they recommend it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll now move to our last new business item, L5, which is just simply the board's position on documentation backup on positions, and the recommendation at the workshop was for only director positions and above. So I'm open the floor for discussion.
Could you repeat that?
Yes, sir. For L5, the positions for backup information to be submitted with, in other words, what we had today, we approved all those names and everything. The only backup information pursuant to that would just be for director level positions and above, nothing below.
Oh, I have a problem with that.
So
Yeah.
that was what we.
No
and Ms.
teachers
Pickens,
or
you-
staff,
You
but
you wanted to
everybody else.
think about it and then come back for us to make a decision. So, and I can't make the motion, but I think that's a reasonable, and that certainly takes a huge burden off the staff with these other positions, which I thought, the instructional positions are all set, guidelines, everything. I don't think there's any problem with that, or school administration.
Did we determine, I just can't remember, what type of backup information? I know we had limited it.
Well, it'd be the statutory requirement, the job description,
And
salary schedule, the qualifications of the applicant, and I think there was one more. Don's got the statute right there, but, so it'd just be the basic information in the first paragraph there.
Minimum qualifications for personnel, is that what you're?
Well, we're talking about the backup information that would be submitted for the board to approve the position.
Like if somebody was a first grade teacher or a kindergarten teacher?
No,
they would not-
no, they won't be considered. Just anybody that's in the upper,
I know we
Madam
talked
Chair,
about,
anybody above teachers.
Not really.
qualifications, the job description, your resume.
Describe the application, disposition, provide for compensation, promotion, suspension, that type of thing. So it would be all that, the backup information like we would get. As I understand it, it would be a copy of the job description, the qualifications of the applicant, the salary schedule. I thought there's one other thing, but those were as far as the application, yeah.
And it would be for the top three, or would it be for all candidates, or just the?
Only
No, that was the
director
question.
level and above.
That's all public record anyway.
It is, but the way the statute, I think, interprets it is that, we have that information when we take a vote on it. So, all right, Chair will entertain a motion or discussion or questions.
I would like to say that, once again, if we put something in statute like that, then, or in our policy, that'll tie the hands of the superintendent if he is in a meeting in Seattle, Washington, and finds somebody that's the greatest thing since sliced bread to hire and bring here. That sounds kind of weird, but I mean, you're just trying to box yourself in a corner where you can't have options to do good things. Like I've hired kids, young people out of college in churches at the church service, and hired them and said, hey, you're report to school, come by to do paperwork. I just don't know why you feel that strongly about it. I mean, I've seen it before with boards in the past, but I just don't feel that that's my perspective.
Mr. Holmes, you want to address that with respect to the statute and, you know, the question you were saying that they're in Seattle, and I think you said that they can hire them with a contingency that is board approved. If they're the best thing since sliced bread, I can't imagine the board would approve that.
Well, even if you send an administrator to bring back a Tim Adams or a JT Stout like we've done in the past from Indiana, I just
It wouldn't apply to instructional or the school side, so unless they're a director or above.
well, it's just more of the stuff you were fussing about earlier in the meeting or complaining about. I got you.
Not fussing or complaining, I was just pointing out my professional opinion, which is just mine. I know.
I just don't want to handcuff and put anybody in a corner where they can't make a decision.
Individually.
Ma'am? No, we didn't. The attorney said we didn't need to do them.
Didn't need
individually. Right.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you had to name them and then vote in one lump. Okay.
Yep. All right, any other questions or comments on, on this, or discussion, or motion?
Okay, and it's just,
We haven't had a motion, no.
okay. And Mrs. Whitehurst said at one of our meetings prior to this, that on the top 3 or whatever the top number, to send that would not pose a problem, right? It's just,
be for the person that's being recommended for the position.
Correct.
oh, just the one. Oh, okay.
Final recommendation.
Okay, all right.
Right.
That's even
Yeah,
better. Okay.
only the final
Okay.
recommendation, not
All right.
applicants or anything else.
Okay.
Since this is new business, is this motion to set this on the agenda for the next meeting? What
I think it
motion
would
is
be-
needed here?
Well, I'll remind you, if we get into a $1 million rollback from the state or something, and the superintendent has to start rolling personnel into positions, he's liable to roll people that don't hold whatever somebody's idea of a minimum competency is into positions to save money. And it's not uncharacteristic for that to happen.
And I wouldn't, my position is in that circumstance, again, especially for those kind of reasons, I think the board as a whole would have to understand that and
We
address it
would.
appropriately.
Well,
I don't want to tie.
from what I see,
superintendent's hands.
yeah, from what I'm observing, looks to me like more of an effort to try to tie hands. It's just, maybe I'm wrong. I'm reading it wrong.
So,
I just been through it a
I know
lot.
I'm sitting right beside.
I've been shot a bunch of times, I
brought
can
it
tell
up
you that.
today, but my position is going by the law. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do, and if the law says we have an obligation to do something, I want it set up to where nobody can come in and say otherwise. That's my position, and I understand it may be a better business model in a lot of ways to let him or anybody else appoint people or do whatever, but if the statute says otherwise, I don't see that we have a choice but to do.
Well, let's say somebody has an axe to grind with the superintendent, a future board member, and they try to do something to create problems, and they want to stop him from doing something like that. Then your system shuts down, and you're back into with different attorneys representing the superintendent, the board attorney representing the board, or whoever on the board it is. And I've just,
Well, and I think that's why we have 5 people.
yeah, there you go. I've been through it.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment to
Yes,
this?
sir, you recognize.
I'm just going to say I'm very disappointed, first of all, that this even came up, just because I feel a high degree of mistrust of the administration. And at any time, I've invited board members to come in. If you had a question about any hires, come in and see us. But for us, and we'll provide whatever we got to hire, whatever we got to provide. But right now, I just feel like, there's a degree of mistrust that our administration cannot make judgments on people that we can recommend to this board. I'm not saying we're not trying to abide by the statute. You can come in and we'll provide that documentation for you. But right now, it sounds to me like you're questioning, or there's a question about whether or not we can make adequate judgments about people that work for this district. And I'm telling you what, I'm personally offended that this is even coming up. And I invite any board member to come in. I've got a question about a certain hire. Come on in, we'll lay it out for you. But just to have this out there for every single person just tells me that you're lacking the trust and the professionalism of these people in this audience. So that's all I got to say.
Well,
and I want the board to vote on whatever they want to vote on. And yeah, the statute says what the statute says. But this administration busted their butt to provide the best people for these jobs. And I feel like right now you're questioning that. So back to you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, so Mr. Superintendent, I'm highly offended too that the administration, and I came in to see you and Ms. Whitehurst with the board attorney, not once, but twice. We discussed it at the board meeting. What I'm saying, in the 3 years I've been here, almost 3 years, this is only, my questioning, your recommendations only happened in two occasions. The first one, I couldn't say anything because I was under the impression we didn't have any, that statute I didn't know was in existence. All I'm saying is, and it's not for everybody, for directors. A director is a position that's very high in the totem pole, and that we may disagree, and the board may disagree on different positions, who they interpret with reading the job description and the final applicant, whether or not they're qualified or not. That's their individual opinion. That's not, I'm not saying that the staff isn't doing their job or they're not making the correct recommendations. If in 3 years I only had 2 questions, then obviously you're doing something right. But what I'm saying is, for those positions, pursuant to the statute, I think it behooves the board. Now, again, we had to vote on it. They may just totally disagree, and but that we review the recommendation that you make on the appointment, and we look at the job description and the resumes or applications, salary schedule, all the things that the statute outlines, and we just vote to approve it or not approve it. And I can assure you, I will do like I did with this position that we brought up today. If I've got a problem, I'm going to come talk to you about it, which I did.
I'm glad you did, because you haven't been doing that. So I'm glad you are, and I welcome you any day.
Like I said, there's only been one other occasion, and again, and once the person's hired, it's a moot point. I mean, today, you'll never hear anything about this again, because the majority of the board passed it and approved it. So it's a done deal.
But I want the board to vote on it. I just want to express my opinion that
So you would prefer us not having any unless we ask for it individually.
Hey, you're the one that brought it up, and I'm just saying, if you want this and the board chooses to have all this and our people have to go through and provide all that, so be it. But I'm just telling you right now, the way we've been doing it, it's being communicated to me that we are not capable of hiring adequate people. And you can always come in and talk to us. We'll lay it all out for you. But to provide this for everybody, directors and up, it tells me, it sends a strong message to me that if the board votes on that, it sends a message to me that we do not know what the heck we're doing. So that's the last thing I got to say about it.
All right, go ahead.
I just want to be clear for myself. I appreciate everything that our district staff does, and they've been wonderful to me. And when I ask for something, I get it, and they've worked very nicely with me. Most recently, Ms. Whitehurst. My approach on this, and it may be the same or different than anyone else's, is simply trying to do my job more clearly, and more than likely, every recommendation you bring is likely going to get passed, is how I feel. But at least we have the ability to have the information to make an actual decision that we are ordered to do through the legislature. That's how, because I don't like rubber stamping anything, and that doesn't have to do with mistrust of anyone. It's just, if they're telling us we have to make a decision, we get a name, that's not a decision. And so I just would like I do agree with that, having a little bit of information, not to overload you, but just on the one person that is selected, we, more than likely we look at it and we go, yep, sounds good. That's just how I'm approaching it. So I personally am not trying to say I distrust anyone, and I think it kind of spreads the responsibility around a little too. It's not just on the folks recommending or just on the superintendent.
We then
held
have to-
accountable for our decisions then in passing it.
Well, and one of the reasons I quit attending the dynamic Florida School Board, Master Board training is that board members normally don't follow what you're taught in there, how it is to go in and sit down and talk to the superintendent and find out what's going on and ask the questions that need to be asked instead of, you know, this level that goes on. And it's just different. I don't know. It's not unreasonable to ask for that, but it depends on what you're going to do with that information. If you got somebody wanting to cause problems, they're going to cause problems. And that's, unfortunately, 90 times out of 100, that's what my experience has been over the years. So, and not saying that that's the case here, but I can always ask district staff who this person is and what their qualifications are.
You know, what we're talking about basically is 4 pieces of paper, you know, scanned and attached to the board agenda. And all it does is give the other board members the opportunity to see what the board member that may had a question about it or disagreement, we're going to disagree on things. I think that's been obvious by our votes today. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not challenging what the district doing. I mean, I've said 2 positions. We probably hired or rehired 2,000 people in the last 3 years. 2 out of 3,000. I mean, I don't even know what that is, but it's not even a registrable percentage. So, and these positions, you know, the directors and above are critical positions. And I agree with what Ms. Wagner said. You know, I get questions about all kind of stuff, including personnel and the whole process from constituents and people calling or texting or emailing me. You know, I want to have a good answer for them and say, no, maybe I disagreed with with them, but the board approved it. And so the board's the final say, and it's a done deal. So, you know, you go complain somewhere else. That's the end of it. I don't see it as a reflection on the staff or what the staff is doing in human resources or with recruiting or placements or anything else. It's just for informational purposes. If it's too much of a burden or the board doesn't think we need it, then no need for a motion.
Can I just get a clarifying comment, question?
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Okay, so I want to make it clear that the director and above is not about making sure we're in compliance with statute, because we've already had that conversation. The qualifications are approved through the job descriptions. The position is approved through personnel allocations. And then your final piece is the recommendation. Getting backup information for directors and above, that's your call. Because it doesn't specify certain positions, you can't say that that's putting it in compliance with statute if you're not asking for that for every employee. So it's not about us following that statute. It's simply about giving you more information about specific positions. Because the only thing that I need to do to make sure we are fully in compliance with that statute, from my understanding, is to make sure there is a statement in our onboarding packet about contingency offer pending final approval of the board, and they acknowledge it. And if I'm wrong, I need clarification, because my signature goes on this, and I value my signature with the State Department, because I want my retirement money.
Could you clarify that, Mr. Holmes?
Well, so I don't know if it's clarification or not, but maybe there's a lot of discussion that people are taking more personally than it's intended. The statute imposes a burden on you to approve or reject a nomination from the superintendent. That's clear.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you approve or reject without information from which you can make an informed decision. You go in and sign a document to buy a car. They put it in front of you. You might trust the salesman. Do you not read the document? When the statute says the burden is on you to reject only upon good cause, does that not imply that you know something about the applicant that's being put in front of you in order for you to decide whether you have good cause to reject? I don't look at it as a matter of I don't look at it personally, since you asked me, as a matter of not trusting anyone. Your opinion may differ from someone else's, and everybody may be acting in good faith. From my perspective, when the statute says you're to make a decision on a nomination, if you're not going to have any information other than the fact that staff recommended the person, then you basically are a rubber stamp, because you're not making any independent inquiry, even so much as looking at a resume. You asked me, I'm telling you. So, from my opinion, if you're only going to say, well, Ms. Whitehurst says these are the people, we're going to say that we're fulfilling our obligation by saying yes. You could do that. If that's, like I said, I'll never tell you what you can't do. I just don't know how you make an informed decision without even basic information about the person.
So, Mr. Attorney,
And that's what I'm asking is, how do you differentiate?
And above,
Right.
or everybody?
Because the statute doesn't say that.
I think that my understanding was that the workshop, the intent of the board was to try to minimize the amount of work that was put on staff and essentially limit that inquiry to those in the positions where there might be the greatest potential for a difference of opinion as to qualifications or competence to hold a position. And this is me just filling in blanks from the way I understood things, but you interview teachers every day. They have their teaching certificate. They don't have a criminal record. They meet the threshold. I don't know that it's fair to say that that the board either has to say you do that for every teacher or you can't do it for the director. I don't read it that way.
Right.
You may.
Right,
But my point was that I think the board in the workshop was saying, look, we aren't going to try to go behind every hire you make. We don't need to look at principals. We don't need to look at necessarily teachers. But when you get to a certain level, we'd like to be able to see the qualifications, the job description, and the resume so that we can make an informed decision.
Right.
Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
And I totally agree with that, and that is what we discussed at the workshop. And I said, I will give you whatever that you need, but I just don't want it saying that we're doing that to be in compliance with a statute that doesn't specify a certain level. It's the board wishes so that you can have that information, but I truly believe, and I am not an attorney, but I truly believe what we are doing is in compliance with statute because you've already approved those other things, other than that, having that contingency statement in writing with the employee's signature on it, acknowledging that they understand that. I am fine giving y'all additional information. That's not.
So, and I think in our conversation in private, I just explained from an attorney's perspective. Let's say you do have a negligent hire. Superintendent makes a recommendation, board approves it, and then let's say that it's a big enough deal so that you get into litigation, and they interview a board member and say, Ms. Gilliard, you approve this recommendation. You approve the nomination of the superintendent, yes. And what did you rely upon in doing that? Well, Ms. Whitehurst recommended him. I'm not so sure that that's going to be compliance with the statute,
Right.
but maybe it'll never happen. I understand people
Right.
keep saying, "Well, we've never done it that way. We can't hardly work that way." And my answer is, for a lot of years, I've not said what I thought which law was a good law and which law was a bad law, or whether I thought I could write a better law. I just say, look, this is the law that somebody's given me, and the legislature's been
Right.
they haven't changed it for a long time. So that's my read on it.
Right.
Is I don't know how you make an informed decision without some information other than if it's just going to say, the statute could say, board shall adopt the recommendation of the superintendent. It could say that, and then there'd be no discussion right now. Superintendent makes a recommendation. The board shall trust the superintendent's recommendation and employ whoever's nominated. They could say that, and then you got no responsibility. He makes a recommendation, you adopt it.
Right.
But that's not what it says.
And I'm not disagreeing with that at all. And I don't know if what I'm trying to say is making sense or not.
I'm trying to say, if I may.
Yes,
that
please.
You don't want us going, we're doing this to be in compliance, but we're only going to do it for these people. And
Thank you. That is what I'm trying to say.
I got you. I think our, for me, I can only talk for me. I think my position on that through our discussions was that, like he said, with teachers, there are very clear-cut qualifications. You have to have a teaching certificate. So if someone is, now, you've got good teachers and bad teachers. In those positions, I feel that they're so defined that, you know, the recommendation is probably.
But we have positions that are different than I mean, we have other positions that maybe not so defined. I mean, that's the thing is like, if you start looking at every single position we have and trying to make that decision, and I'm fine with it being like I've said at the workshop, my department will do what the board requests for us to do, and you make a decision on that. I just want to make sure that we all understand that we can't, if we're trying to be in compliance with a statute, you can't pick and choose which employees you're going to do that with. And if you feel like,
we do it with all employees.
I'm not recommending that.
Well,
That's
then
what I'm saying.
with no employee.
What I'm saying is I don't want it to say that it's tied, that you're doing
tied to
this
statute.
so that we're, right,
Making some practical.
but it's saying that we're in compliance, that you're doing it so that we're in
Just don't see
compliance with
what-
the
What
statute.
board member wouldn't go into human resources and ask what's going on, you know? I just don't.
No, I really don't have anything more to say. I mean, from my perspective, if I don't understand why it doesn't seem rational to draw a line at some level and say that there's, based upon the practicalities of the numbers of people hired, the relatively objective criteria for hiring, like a teacher or janitor or whatever, that the level of scrutiny from the board can be different. I mean, courts exercise discretion every day, and we're not talking about a private employer. We're talking about a school district that has to follow a statute. So from my standpoint, you know, if you're comfortable in saying that you're fulfilling your obligation by simply trusting the recommendation of the superintendent, then you can say that. But you might have to, and maybe you'll never have to answer a question from somebody like me asking you how you could say that without knowing anything about the person who was recommended. But statute says that you're the one that's supposed to be the final vote on whether a hire is made, and it's pretty clear that it's not just a perfunctory vote. So I'll leave it at that. And like you said, I don't see it as a personal matter, but I know some do. I don't see it as a matter of trust or personal or distrust. And I understand that. I don't understand how kind of the practices have gone where they have gone. I mean, I've not been a long-term board attorney. And as I told you earlier, there was a time when I had talked to an earlier board member and said that basically y'all don't have any say-so in administrative matters. You just basically are rubber stamp. I kind of took that at face value until I started reading statutes and said, well, that's not what this says. You know, I don't get the fact that somebody explained to me why this doesn't mean what it says, and I'm happy for somebody to do that. Just tell me this doesn't mean what it says, and then I'm good. But until then, it says you make a decision, and if you're willing to make a decision without any information about the person that you're deciding upon, then that's for you. And on the other hand, if you think there's a different level of scrutiny that a principal or a teacher might deserve compared to a director of finance, let's just say, or whatever, then I think that's your discretion to make too. And that's really all. That's my opinion.
Well, and I understood that at the last board meeting, I think Ms. Whitehurst stated that it had been board policy that the board doesn't get any backup information unless they request it. And so we went through this whole process, and you know, statute trumps board policy. And so we discussed and said, well, yeah, there are the whole group of people that we don't need to really review their backup information, just have a list of them and approve like we did today. But you know, my recommendation was, and not to meet the statute, but so every board member has the same information if in fact they need to, and we have full transparency. And so if you get questions, well, why did so-and-so do this hire, make this hire, that you've got the answers and the board has approved it. So I'm saying that the board just, and I don't know if it's policy or not, but we just set you know, a level, a limit as to what we want. And then if a position other than, lower than the director comes up, you have a question about it, as the superintendent says, you can go in and talk to them and, you know, see if you can get your questions answered, or you still disagree with it, then you can pull it from the list that's like we had today. So that's all I'm saying. And listen, I'm not trying to say anybody personally anything. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way for us to do our job. And I think that the attorney is right, that there is a different level of scrutiny for higher positions than there is for a janitor.
Well, I can't believe a board member wouldn't know anything about who they're approving for a position if they hadn't called or gone in and asked. I just can't fathom that. But I mean, that's me. And then the next thing I've got, once again, if we get in a bad economic time, which hopefully we won't, but he has to start rolling people from the district level to principalships or assistant principalships to cover school, and principals into guidance positions like we've done in past times. What's the board going to do? How you going to stop him and keep him from doing it and cost us $1 million, $2 million? Depends on how much money he's got. There's just
I think it'd be
there's a
easily
lot.
approved.
There's just a lot more to this than meets the eye, and
I disagree. I don't
and
think
and
there is.
you can disagree all you want, because I don't know what you did at the Department of Agriculture. Y'all probably had a resume that long, but we have job descriptions that are approved, and if you send somebody to hire someone, they don't necessarily have had to have had 20 years experience in a position to go offer the job to someone if they meet qualifications. And I've had about all of this I can take.
Well, last thing I'll say is that this job description was written and approved in 2014. You know, and we approved today a whole list of job descriptions that have been rewritten and updated. This wasn't one of them. I did provide that, you know, and that could have come to the board for approval, and we could have, you know, bypassed all this had that been put on the board agenda, and we could have voted on it. And again, the vote probably would have been the same thing as it was today, but at least we'd have had that opportunity, and you would have had that information for you to review to decide what your position was on it personally as a board member. So I think Mr. Buckles is right. We will, I'll take a motion, or we can just not take any action on this if that's whatever the board wants
Could
to
I
do.
just make a
Yes, ma'am.
statement? So if I see someone on Personnel Matters that is a director level, and I'm okay with that part of it. If I do my due diligence and go to Ms. Whitehurst, and I've looked up the job description prior to, and you know, I'm not really sure of the qualifications that the person has. But if I go to her and I say, does this person meet these qualifications? Or I talk to her on the phone and I say, this person meets it, then I don't have to have a written thing. I can just go and talk to her. Is that not?
Or she could give you that information when you went and talked
Right.
to her. She could give you the resume or application that was submitted by the individual, and then you can review that based, you know, on the job description. I mean, it's just that simple, you know.
So that's the way we've been doing it, that if you had a question, you went and talked to her, correct? Or no?
If
you had a question about the job this is
only
only, okay.
the first one I've ever had.
I could
because-
call her or Thomas or Rick or whoever and ask them a question.
Right.
I think the point is more if it makes it very clear if they provide it to us across the board on these positions, it makes it very clear that the board has gotten it. So you can get it and
Okay.
choose not to read
Okay.
it.
Okay.
But, you know, if we don't have it given to us, then there's, you know, we can't pull each other and say, well, did you actually go talk to somebody about it or not? And it would at least be an absolute, we've had the information to make a good decision.
Okay, I'll go there, yeah.
All right, we need to bring this to a close, so I don't hear a motion.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion, I don't know how to specify it, but a motion to approve that for Director positions and above, that we receive the basic information such as the job description, qualifications, salary and application.
Now, what's above a director?
Executive director.
Executive, okay,
Yeah.
all right, all right.
All right. I have a motion. Is there a second? Okay.
I'll second
All
for
right.
discussion.
All right. I have a second discussion.
And I agree with Ms. Wagner. It does give us a little bit, if we had it, you know, that we could choose to ignore it, but at least it was provided. I still believe I could to go and speak in person. So,
So you still have that option, so.
right.
Any other questions or discussion? Ms. Pickens, are you?
Well, I'm still thinking.
No.
Okay. Ms. Gilliard?
I'm trying to think, in regards to contingency, that came up, in regards to the policy and what it said, we shall do. But when the person is offered the position, Mrs. Whitehurst already stated that they understand that this is a contingency based on what is done at the board meeting. Okay. Okay, right, okay, all right.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries, 3-2 or 4-1. I couldn't, Ms. Pickens, how'd you vote?
She said aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-1. All right, we will now move to reports. We will have Mr. Weaver make our school safety report for the fourth quarter. You're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I actually have two very quick reports to share with you. Both are related to DOE's Office of Safe Schools compliance inspections. The first one being for the fourth quarter. During the fourth quarter of this year, we had 3 of our schools, which is equivalent to about 20% of our schools overall, that were inspected. 2 of those schools, which represent about 66%, had absolutely no deficiencies whatsoever. The one school did have, as we discussed in executive, did have a documentation issue, which was corrected. And then the second report is basically the running total for the entirety of the year for these same inspections. DOE, over the course of the school year, inspected 10 of our schools, which represent about 66% of our schools. Out of those 10, 8 had absolutely 0 deficiencies, which represents about 80%. So that's all I have, unless you have questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
All right. We will now move to reports by board members. I'll start with you, Ms. Wagner.
Sure. I wanted to say I'm really happy we have the AI policy coming out. Something in law that always annoys me is the laws take years and years and years to catch up with technology, and I'm glad to see we're staying on top of that. And while I realize that we have some disagreements on this, I still am happy that this board overall is able to talk this stuff out, come to a conclusion, and move forward. So just wanted to say that on a positive note, and that's all I'm going to say today.
All right, Ms. Gilliard.
Real quick, just want to mention the article. We saw Mrs. Huff has already gone regarding Mrs. Joyce Oliver and the friend she is to public education, most especially to Putnam County, and I just love it. Did get an opportunity to be a part of the Welcome Back breakfast at Brown and Pierce. The enthusiasm and the excitement shown by the teachers and the staff there just is really encouragement. Also to the Ron Dennis press box being passed. Thank you for that. And tonight, well, they've already begun the Florida Night Out, PALS Athletic Association over here at the riverfront, where they kind of supposed to turn off all technology and kind of have fun things going. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Mr. Buckles.
Did you throw darts at my picture at Bryan and Pierce?
No, sir. I just
Oh, okay.
smiled and said, "There's Papa Bear." That's all.
You know, it is what it is. I've done this before, and it's not my first rodeo, and I don't have all the answers, but I just know that when the chips are down, it's hard to work sometimes. And but I was real pleased on the Ron Dennis thing. I just the naming of the press box certainly doesn't do justice. And about Miss Joyce Oliver, people will never know how many students her husband FV sent to college because he wouldn't let you tell who was selected. He wouldn't let you tell them that he gave the money for years. So with that, I'll pass it on because it's
Ms.
long day.
Pickens?
First, I'd just like to say I do have complete trust in our administration. Normally, this day, yesterday, the start of school is like really great. This meeting hasn't been super great, but I would just like to say welcome back to all of our teachers and our staff. And I know at the beginning of the year, it's one job that you get to just completely turn the page and start like over. And that's the great thing about teaching. You just come in all ready and excited. And the children do too. And I'm looking forward to the fall sports and everything getting started. I love football season. I love to hear the band. I love to watch the cheerleaders. And I really love to watch the players. So
Thank you. I just have one issue. Mr. Hinkie sent me an email, all of us an email after the budget workshop, and he provided an excellent explanation and presentation there, kind of off the cuff. But he has offered to go into a more detailed update that he's done in the past. If the board's interested, I certainly would love to hear that because I think he brings some real valuable information about what's happening and how hard they're all working to help us move forward, in the grading system, which I don't think the state grading system's fair. But at any rate, I would like, if the other board members would like to do that, I think we could. John, we need to do that in a workshop or okay, in a workshop. So, is the consensus of the board that in the next couple months we'll have Mr. Hickey make a presentation in a board workshop. We can do it right before a board meeting.
Yes, sir.
Is that okay? All right. Yes, sir.
I just have one comment, a little off subject, but to bring you up to date. I was asked to visit the sitting county judge in Putnam County who's also handling all of your truancy court last week. She wanted to advise me that the judges have been discussing a recent bill of the legislature. It's 100 pages long, and it basically upends truancy court as we have known it in the past. Right now, apparently, there is not a model to follow. Not another district or another county has basically put something in place that she's aware of that we can just immediately look to go forward with truancy court. But there's going to be some need for some changes. And those of you who are familiar with truancy court know or familiar with interface, where students are sent when they have been determined basically by the court to be truant, and been findings by the court made that there's a need for some intervention. Well, she will no longer be able to send a student to interface unless she first makes a finding that the parents are in contempt, which is a big deal. It's a much heavier standard than what she's had to make in the past. And if she does send anybody to interface, it's for only 10 days. So it doesn't give them a 30-day window for some sort of behavioral modification. It's a 10-day. In addition, they're requiring that truancy court be held every 45 days, not less than 45 days, whereas now it's being held every quarter. She says basically her schedule won't accommodate that. And so there's going to be a need for some significant changes. She mentioned asked about whether the board would be willing to hold truancy court. I told her I doubted it, but it's not for me to say. So I'll be getting with And by that, I didn't mean to say that you weren't willing to accept the responsibility. It's just that that's a whole,
Well,
that's
Don-
a whole different ballgame that none
Don,
of you.
technically, they just about do in expulsion committees. It's about the same type thing. So is it Janusa? Is that who it is? Okay. All right.
So I'm going to be trying to get with some other districts and find out what they're doing with truancy court, and also get with your staff to find out what's doable here, and then get back with her and see if we can kind of remake the wheel, I guess.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent?
Yeah, I just. My letter's going out. Our staff visited all the faculty meetings for all the schools. Teachers came back yesterday, and I think it's very positive. And actually, they're talking about school grades, and they're really setting goals for the teachers and all that. So, I think everybody's hitting the ground running and very, very upbeat about doing even better this year. So that's all the comments I have.
Any other business come before the board? All right, we'll stand adjourned.